All right, we have about a minute here until 1 o'clock or 10 o'clock, depending where you are, but we can go ahead and kick it off. We have a few announcements, just like housekeeping things to go over, so we can kick that off first. So just so you all know, like we said before, we're going to be rolling this out on a rolling basis. So if you didn't get the communication yet about downloading your app, we're not forgetting about you. Our team is getting to it. It's just more of a manual process. So thank you for your patience with that. But you should get very clear instructions once you do get that information, how to download it, how to access it. And we will be holding office hours. So Nikki on our team, if you're having any trouble downloading the app or accessing it, starting next week, we will have open office hours. So if you're having any sort of trouble, you can just jump in there and she'll assist you. And that is all on, if you go into the portal and look at the training calendar, you can see all of that information. So the Zoom links and everything you need to access those is going to be in there. I believe that's starting Thursday next week, but we'll make sure that that's in the recap email as well. And then we will have another session with Finlocker July 13th. So by that point, everyone, the app will be rolled out, you'll have access to it, and we will do another training. So again, we'll make sure that you have that communication, but that's something to look forward to as well. And as Chris is going to be going through a presentation, we're going to kind of do this in two parts. So we're going to be going over the client-facing portion of the app. He just has a few things to go through, and then we'll do some Q&A after that. And then we'll do another portion of the back end of the app and then some Q&A after that. So if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A rather than the chat. And Ethan is going to be going through and kind of manning that and answering any questions that he can. But then once we get through that first portion, we'll pause and answer any questions that are still left. So having said that, Chris, I will turn it over to you. Thanks for jumping on with us again. This is great. And thanks everyone for being here with us today.
Val, I was planning on going through the admin portal first. Are you okay with that? Or
sure. Yeah. Okay.
Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Good to go.
All right. Welcome everybody. So what I'm going to be showing you first is the admin portal. So this is not the consumer facing side. This is your access to the administrative portal, where you'll have certain functions and visibility into your client, your consumer base that is coming in here. So when you go to the login, and I believe Nikki has already sent most of you a document training on this, but when you go to the login here, you're going to have your address, your email address that was registered. You should have received for those of you who already received it, you received a one-time password from noreply@finlocker.com. And then your company code, if you're an Art of Homeownership partner, you put in AOH here for the company, or if you're NEO, you just put NEO, not NEO Home Loans, just NEO by itself. And that will log you in to our admin portal. This is a control tower that both Art of Homeownership and NEO control from administrative level, and then we get down to the user level, which most of you will be. So starting off, this is just the dashboard. It shows you some anonymized views of basic data of activity data here, and then credit scores by range of that are in here. The consumers are just in your locker. So you'll only be able to see the consumers that have come in through your unique invitation code that are tied to you. It won't be a view of everybody here on the call. In here, you'll be able to see a lot of these are just newly set up lockers, but you're going to see some basic activity on these anonymized lockers. I'm going to go into it in just a little bit. We have some exciting enhancements coming at the end of the month, where you're actually going to get, with consumer consent, you'll be able to see some of this data down to the consumer level. So I'll cover that here in just a little bit. And then also on the dashboard here, this is if a user elects to share information for you. So think of it as starting the mortgage application process, where you'd be getting the VOA reports. You'd be getting any liabilities that they share, income statements, tax statements, and then a MISMO file that you could drop into your loan origination system. We covered that last week on last week's call of how the consumer goes through the share, and I'll show that a little bit later. But when someone does share, you'll get notified, and then that's where you'd come into the admin portal and the share center here, the shared information place, and you can pick up that PII level information on a consumer. This process of sharing, again, I'll show it, but there's explicit consent at that piece. So it's more towards the end of the process after they've already been using the locker. I'm going to jump over here to the invite section. So this invite section, this is where you'll be able to see who is registered or who is, of your people you send out invites, who has come in and who's accepted a locker invite and created their own locker. It'll show their status date when they signed up. That's what status date refers to, and their last active date. So, whenever they last logged in. You probably won't have the sent by field in here because you'll be sending through, your CRM. But in the assigned to, for your guys' individual loan officer view, it'll just, all of your ones will be assigned to you. Also, as it relates to invites, so you'll already have an invite created for you, but let's just say you wanted to create another invite campaign for a specific use or whatever, you can come in here and create your own invite link. So another link that's specific to you. I think you've all seen like either a custom URL or a mobile registration code, which you can see here. So you already have one, but if for some reason you wanted to create another one, you have the ability to come in here through this. You'd come in, sign yourself as the assignee. You can name it whatever you want in the link name, and then how many lockers that you want to this link to go to. So like, let's just say you're running a special campaign and you only wanted it to go out to 50 people. You can limit that link to only have 50 locker registrations. I'm going to come over here to lockers. So this is another just view of the total lockers. There's pagination on the page, and you can go from 50 to 100 and see as many as you want. Today, this is anonymized, but again, I'll go through this in just a little bit of where with consumer consent, we'll be able to unanonymize this. And then this is really the extent of your permission base on there. You'll see some other things on the left-hand side. That's really related to the overall, administrative users at Art of Homeownership and Neo, but there are things that they can additionally update. So I want to pause for just any questions that might have come through before I move over to a look at our new admin portal that's coming later.
I think, so Jessica had asked, do the invites sync with daily AI? I believe Ethan was answering, typing an answer, but.
I was typing it, but we can just cover it here live.
Okay.
Not today. It's a little bit of a manual process, but there's a file that we will pass back to AOH with a list of who signed up, so those contacts can be removed from the drip campaign and daily AI.
Okay, great. And Melissa asked, so they have to have our personal link to sign up?
Yes, they will need your personal link either, and I'll go back here just so you can see. They'll either need the mobile invitation code or the URL. We have clients who send out both because sometimes consumers have preference. They prefer use the desktop versus mobile, or sometimes people want to focus them just on the mobile app and we'll give them that. But either one will work, and they can use either one. So if they prefer to sign up mobile, they can do that. If they prefer to sign up with the web, they can do that. And once they sign up and register that locker, the mobile and web used are interchangeable. So you can log into web and mobile at the same time if you want it. And whatever updates you make in web will reflect in mobile and vice versa.
Great, okay. So Mark is asking, what is the business model for the service? Is it a flat fee or a per locker or number of users type of program?
So I don't want to speak to too many commercial terms we have with AOH and Neo, but we have a commercial agreement with AOH and Neo for X amount of lockers, and it's a very high locker count. But Ryan, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I don't know if you got anything else for me to add. So I know for Art of Homeownership perspective, that's included in your membership. So this is just a new product within your membership.
Yeah, so I'll jump in here. I was trying to unmute myself. So there's no additional cost for this. Like if you are signed up for the Neo experience, or if you're signed up for Art of Homeownership, all this is included in your normal monthly cost.
Okay. Okay. I think we're good to go, Chris.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to jump over to our new, it's still in our stage environment, so it's not to production. It could actually go as soon as tonight, but if it doesn't go tonight, it'll go next week. And so this is just a look and feel. Again, this is from a test account, not AOH or Neo, but this is a look at the new admin portal. So the look and feel will be modernized and refreshed. And again, it could be as soon as tonight. We're in the last few bits of testing today. Or if it doesn't go tonight, it'll go next Wednesday night. And you'll just see that there's a lot more just better user interface for all of this. But where this gets important is, you still have all the same thing, the total records, activity, credit band information, the shared information. But when we get down into lockers, there's a little bit more power in here. So at the end of the month, we're going to be updating our terms of service. And upon acceptance of the terms of service, there's going to be an additional pop-up that says, would you like to share additional consent to give more features within the app, and potentially get help from a mortgage professional. If they consent to that, then this information that you're seeing with like have they enrolled in credit, have they enrolled in profile, property, if they run the readiness assessment, have they done employment and payroll enrollment, this will be unanonymized. So instead of this code here, it would be like, if this is Val's account, it'd be say Val Miller and give the contact information for that. You're also going to just see the new users over a 7-day period of time. And then, sorry, went to the wrong place. And then you're going to be just a better view on the invites page where you can filter down between accepted, canceled, total, all that. You can export to CSV. And then in the lockers perspective too, we're going to have some additional filtering capability where you can go and filter down by users based on like, when do they accept the locker? Have they enrolled in financial institution or not? So like maybe if they haven't enrolled in financial institutions, it's a good way to reach out and just, express the importance of it. Or credit, they enroll property, all those good things, you can filter those accounts down by. We'll do, and in the webinar that Val mentioned coming up, mid next month, that's where we'll dive into the additional functionality here because it'll be fully in production at that point, and we'll be able to see some of that, unanonymized information. So that's really the gist of the admin portal. It's fairly straightforward. It is, it's definitely of use to get your codes and that stuff, but it's not something that you're going to need to use every day. Any questions that come up there before I move to the consumer facing side?
Yeah, so access to the app requires enrollment in the Art of Homeownership or Neo Experience monthly service. Yes, that is correct. So anyone who is already an Art of Homeownership or Neo Experience partner, you will have access to this automatically. Like Ryan said, it's no additional cost per month. But if you're not currently a partner, unfortunately, you will not have access to this. So just reach out to our team if you are interested in becoming a partner and want access to this, but that is correct. I'm glad that you brought that up. It's a good point. Okay, will we be able to customize budgets for clients to help them obtain their goals and set these up in the system?
There's no way for you as the user to customize the budgets for them. However, if there is ways to do that, if you're meeting with your client and you can do a screen share, there's ways that they can set up their budgets themselves, and then you can check in on status on how those budgets are going. I'll dive into that here when we get to the consumer facing. There's two types of budgets. There's ones that like if you're just targeting to save in a particular area, like let's say eating out at restaurants, they're clients spending way too much and they want to drill that down. They can set an individual budget for that, and then there's an overall detailed budget that tracks, auto categorizes all their expenses in the various categories.
Cool. Okay. Looks like that's it for now, so we're good to keep going.
All right, so I'm going to jump over to the consumer facing side. So this is a consumer. I would highly recommend when all of you guys get set up in the admin portal, create your own account under your link. So you can see things like how your picture shows up, how your information shows up, what the consumer is actually seeing, their experience they're seeing. This is the Art of Homeownership branded one. Neo will have the Neo branded experience. They're all virtually the same except for the branding. You're going to go over the dashboard here, and I can jump into any widgets we want, but just go highlighting quickly through the dashboard. You got your credit score, your accounts, and the one thing to note is, and you'll see this when you do your user experience, whether that's your first time user experience, whether it's mobile or web, you're just going to see the credit, the accounts, the offers, the information center, and property search and your moving services. But when a user starts enrolling accounts, then the spending widget, net worth, and budgets and goals they power up and populate. So again, I'll go into each of these, but accounts enrollments, that powers the spending widget, then it auto tracks night overnight, how people are spending the money and categorizes that. Users have the ability to recategorize. Net worth, that pulls in all the digitally enrolled assets, but users can also self-report items in there if they, for some reason, weren't able to enroll, or maybe they have a stack of cash sitting in a safe. They can self-report that and add to their net worth. The property, we do an AVM on the property, that also pulls in to the net worth statement. Budgets and goals. Here are the offers that are controlled by AOH or NEO, but these are the offers that are out there that will take them either inside the locker or to some external area. And then this is the information center. This is a running blog of just fresh content. We have a separate education library, which I'll go into, but this is really just running blog. Think of it as where our education is really like mostly mortgage, but there's other stuff of education related items. And then you have your property search, and then here are the moving services that are unique and specific to AOH and NEO. And then I'll show you in a sec when we get to my property where the home minder stuff is, which is categorized as home maintenance. So I'm going to jump into credit because there's some cool features for your consumer base out there, your client base out there that they can utilize here. Still very standard, we have TransUnion credit report. It'll show them the credit history from when they enrolled. The enrollment, when they enroll, it refreshes every 30 days from enrollment. So they'll get it basically a monthly update, but it's 30 days from their first date of enrollment. They can jump into any sections. They can understand the high impact, medium impact, low impact areas. They can jump into any section and see how the credit's being utilized across all of their accounts. And then what you'll see is, as I navigate through, we try to serve up relevant content in the widgets that the consumer is playing in. So for here, we're in credit. They can open up links and get all this information on just credit. This is all credit focused. Again, they can go to the library and look at everything and go searching there, but you'll see as I navigate through sections, there's relevant education that's just served up in the widget that they're playing with. Simulating, I'm going to go to the credit report real quick. There are some helpful informational stuff out here. It's links out to freeze your credit to different bureaus, getting your annual free credit report, links out to the do not call registries, and then they can jump into their accounts reported. And it just breaks it down by the various classes: auto loans, credit card, real estate, and closed accounts. I'm going to jump to simulate score here first. So this is an area where a consumer can go in and simulate financial decisions they might be thinking about making and how that would affect their credit score. So for example, let's just say I wanted to do 3 mortgage applications for $100,000. Simulate the score, and it's going to tell me that, hey, for my 726, it would take my credit score down by 15 points to 711. Or reset that. They can keep playing down, but opening and closing credit cards, do another straightforward one here, paying off all my credit cards. So this particular account doesn't have much, but it says it would go up by 12 points if they paid off all their credit cards. Moving over to Credit Compass. So everything I'm showing you today is both in mobile and web, except for this Credit Compass piece. It's not in mobile yet. It will be, but we're just in a beta version of this, so it just got released. But this is kind of the inverse of what I showed you with simulating score. This is saying, okay, I'm at a 726. What would it take to get to an 800? So they can plug in whatever score that they want, and then it's going to take them through based on timelines of, this is 24 months. So this is the easiest way to do it. But if I want to go to 12 months, that's a little harder to get to that score, and it's going to give them the steps to go about how they can get there. So that's the credit in a nutshell. I highly encourage all of you to go play around with it. There's some cool features. I love playing around with it just on occasion, and I play around with it a bunch.
Hey, Chris, can you go back to credit for a minute and show where the opt-outs are?
Yes. So there's opt-outs here for the various registries. So do not call, direct mail, and it's just a link out to those sites.
Thanks. We had a question about that in the chat.
Okay. Any other questions pertaining to credit before I move forward?
There's also a question that came up about if the score in the locker is comparable to what would be in Credit Karma. Yes, it is. It's the Vantage Score 3.0, so it's a consumer-facing score, not the FICO.
Yeah, it's everything, Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, all those, big credit apps.
I think that was it for questions though. I think
Okay, great. So accounts, this is where a user would go in and enroll their accounts. These are all test accounts. And I know there was some asked from the previous call, hey, do you have a dummy account you could give us? We can't give you a dummy account just to share amongst everybody because, there could be password resets and all this stuff. What we can give you is we could give you some of our Fiserv's our data aggregator. We give you some test logins for there so you could add account information. So if you're showing a client your own locker, or a locker, you wouldn't have to show them money in your bank account. So if there's interest there, I think we can, we can send that out. But it's as simple as just going in, adding an account. They're going to go in here, add account. These tiles are some of the major institutions on there, but there's something like 15,000 institutions that can be found. So if I wanted to go to like my USAA account, I could go find it. It's going to take me through, ask me for my username and password, and it's going to take me through a multi-factor authentication. So it'll most likely it's going to be a one-time passcode to your cell, but some institutions have other authorization methods. One important thing to note is we do not store passwords and credentials because I know security is of utmost concern to the consumer base. We don't store it, we tokenize that. And then once that token is saved, and then they use that token to refresh the accounts on a nightly basis. A user can also go in and refresh intraday on demand as they want, but every night automatically all of the accounts are refreshed. One other thing to note on here is in some cases, maybe a user has updated their password at their institution, or the institution has enabled some other sort of multi-factor authentication process. If you see like a little exclamation part on the accounts themselves, I don't believe this one has any, but I will go check. So yeah, these are all, but you would see a little message here that says, user interaction needed. I forget the exact message, but it's very clear what that is. And when they do that, it's just going to take them through whatever guided process is needed to do that. In most cases, it's just like another multi-factor authentication, but it does notify the consumer if their account link is broke for whatever reason. Some other things, just because you're probably going to get these questions from your consumers, there's a 90+% coverage on terms of institutions out there, but no data aggregator does 100%. So if a user cannot find their institution, for example, they can contact the support feature in here and file a ticket. And what we do is we work with our data aggregator partner to see if that institution can be added, or if there's an issue, and then respond back to the consumer like, hey, it's been added now, great, you can go enroll. Or in some minute cases, there's this institution just will not play ball with the data aggregator. All right, so now that the accounts have been enrolled, we get into spending. So this will start auto-populating. And the cool thing about this is it's not based on date of enrollment. So they don't need to let this go build up for months to start having this be a benefit. Since we pull back 12 to 24 months of transactions, they're going to instantly have a look back of how they've spent their money over the last 6, 12, 24 months. It just depends on how many transactions they go through. So they could see a calendar view here, or if they wanted to roll back to April and see April and previous, they could do that. They can also just look in here and see how much has been spent in a certain category. So travel and transportation for the month of April was 4,000. Well, what if they didn't really, that looks high to them, they don't really know. They can just hit that and it'll automatically filter down to travel and transportation. Also, if they wanted to recategorize a transaction because they felt it's categorized wrong, it will recategorize. They can manually recategorize, and then on a go forward, there's machine learning on the back end that will recognize that same vendor and for this account, and they've elected to classify it as this. And so on future transactions of that similar type, it will recategorize under the user specified classification. So this is a very, very powerful just feature in terms of just seeing how money is spent month to month. So we'll get into budgets here, but this is kind of an easy budget in a sense of just seeing how people are spending money month over month. So net worth, fairly straightforward. you just got your total net worth. So again, it takes in all of the digitally enrolled accounts. But if someone had, couldn't enroll a checking account, for example, they could, plug in whatever they want and it would reflect in there. And same with liabilities. That net worth is updated on a nightly basis too, with all the different transactions that come in. I'm going to come back to budgets and goals here. I'm going to skip down to the couple of the services. We already went over information center. So this is a look at my property. This particular one is a test account. We weren't able to pull in the mortgage transactions, but I'm going to just flip over to one of our other demo accounts. User can come in, enroll their property. It's going to get their AVM. If they've enrolled their mortgage through that account enrollment process, they can link their mortgage to the account and then it'll track their net equity. So whatever balance owed minus the estimated home value. And then this, as they're paying their mortgage statement, this will update. And so the balance owed will go down. It also pulls in the terms of what their mortgage is here. Jumping back to the art of home ownership. So you have your home values. It's going to give you recently sold comps in the area, property search, which we'll get into in a minute. And then this is the home maintenance. This is the, exclusive for AOH and NEO, the home minder relationship here. Right now, you're just seeing a login here button. So this is assuming a user already has an account. But as, Nikki is setting up the accounts, I know a lot of you have your own unique sign up links for home minder. If that's updated in your profile, you'll see a sign up here, and that will take him directly to your branded, your linked home minder sign up. And then you got your moving services here, which, the updater and revive, relocation service, renovation services. This is just a link out to their site at this point in time. In the future, potentially have integrations here where it would auto create a user, auto log them in like an SSO type process. All right, jump back here. So as we're staying on property, I'm going to get into property search. So they can search properties in here. Home Scout is the provider. I know there's a question that came up through Ryan, I think from some of the base there, that I think some folks are already Home Scout users. Today, this is just, the generic brand Home Scout Finlocker, but in call it late Q3, early Q4, for those people who are Home Scout, already contracted with Home Scout, we'd be able to link that consumer out. And so when they click that link for home search, it'd link them out to your branded instance of Home Scout with your, where you're up, the loan officer information and your contact all over their search information. It's very modern. If you look at the features and functions of like a Redfin or Zillow, all that stuff is there where you can get, all the property attributes, sales history, neighborhood scores, walkability scores, all that good stuff. All right, so jumping back, and then cash flow is just a rolling 30 days of cash flow. Let's see what else. So I'm going to jump then to, I'll do the budgets and goals here real quick, since that was one of the questions that came up. So what I'm showing here is the individual budgets and goals, where this person has had a gas and fuel budget, for a monthly amount of 150. It's saying that there's already 10 grand spent. Keep in mind, this is a test account, so the transactions are not real life stuff, but this is where it would track on the individual goals. So if they wanted to set up another one for another budget for whatever, like, eating out, they could do that. They could select their monthly amounts. They can select what accounts they want to allocate to, and then they can also look for the categories. So food and dining, if they wanted to. And then if they wanted to drill down the subcategory, they could. It's not required, but there's all the different other subcategories that they can select under that. Similar concept with goals. They can set goals here for, if they, this is a vacation goal. They could set a home goal. I want to buy a home in 12 months, or I want to buy an investment property in 2 years, whatever it is. And they allocate percentages of as many accounts as they want. And then as those accounts update, this goal gets updated, and it lets them know, if they're on track based on how much is being saved and how much time is left. This is something that when I'm talking about the new admin portal, this is something that, you'll have visibility into and seeing what they've set and how they're tracking towards their goals. And then income is just if they, like, it doesn't, for a W-2 employee, not that really functional, because you're already getting that pulled in through your account enrollment. But let's just say you had a side hustle that you were doing and you wanted to track some extra earning income, you could do that against there. And then this is the detailed budget. So this is the automated budget where it's pulling in, we work with HUD counselors. And so based on the income, so the only thing the user today has to do is enter their income and taxes one time. And then the rest of the stuff will start populating. It'll give them planned amounts of budgets. It'll have suggested amounts. The user can go in and update that for whatever percentage they want or the amounts that they want. And then month over month, that will just track about how much your net income is, planned amount, and the actuals that was spent. And then so you can go and do a look back too on previous months. And so this is where I was mentioning earlier, if you're on the phone with your client, today it's not shared, you can't set that budget, but you could do a little screen share and go review this, because this is pulling in all that information automatically and categorizing it automatically. I'm going to jump over to calculators here. So mortgage calculator, fairly standard, just term people can go to Bankrate or LendingTree and play around with the calculator. The cool thing about this is now that the consumer has permission data to come into the app, we can start using that data automatically and auto pre-filling stuff. So their income, this one doesn't have for things, but if they on a credit report, let's just say they had a car loan and credit card minimums out there, they would automatically populate in there. The user can go and adjust any of that stuff. And so if they, let's just say they said, I think I can do 35%. It's going to start updating how much home they can afford. So same type of concept as they're playing around with each one of these and doing updates. This is going to keep adjusting. They can also, slide and just see they might not be able to afford this home, and then you get into extremes like you can't afford this home. From here, a user can actually go and create that goal. And so when I was showing you how you manually create the budgets, this would actually get them to the last step. It'll create with all the information here, and all they need to do is just allocate the accounts and the percentage of the accounts that they wanted to go into there. There's also the other kind of calculators on here. So the HELOC calculator, early payoff debt consolidation. I'm going to jump over to readiness now. And so the readiness assessment, this runs against a set of just rules on the back end on our side. We have two kind of underwriting scenarios here, the conventional, so the GSEs and FHA. VA will be added here in the near future. But this runs against those guidelines. So you'll see they've getting the green check marks because they've met those guidelines, met or exceeded those guidelines. So they have a 726 credit score and their guideline 640. So it's going to give them those check marks. But let's just say, this one didn't have a check mark and someone doesn't know what DTI is. They could come in here, they could watch a video on debt to income, and then they can watch a secondary video on budgeting and how to get their DTI in check. So again, that concept debt to income serving up the relevant education, the relevant section. Same type of thing for video, for down payment. They'll have videos there, funds after close. They'll have that. And then when they have all green check marks, that's an indication that they're ready. If they're looking to make another transaction, they're ready to go. And then just keep on the concept of education. This is what I was mentioning. There's a whole education library that they can go. We have 140 plus videos in here. So steps in the mortgage process, closing your loan, preparing for home ownership, and these all expand out. So there's many more videos than just those piled in, but common mortgage terms, understanding loan products, role in the home ownership process. And so this is all very mortgage focused in terms of the financial education, but then we also have other links out for categorized in different areas. So, if someone was looking for just auto loans, there's information here that they can give, insurance, paying for college. So there's a ton of just very good information in here that users can go and not have to Google 10 different sites. It's all in their locker. And then the last step, so they can contact you at any time. This is just open up the email browser, same in mobile, where they can contact you, and or they can do what we call, one last thing, documents. There's a secure library that they can upload and create their own folders, and they can just, as if they're preparing for something, they can start uploading documents so they're ready to go. And that can be utilized in the share process I'm about to show you. So I'm going to go over to the share center. I'm going to do a new share. And so this is the consumer. Think about starting that application process, not officially because we don't trigger trade or anything like that, but it's basically helping to streamline that process because we're going to pass over a lot of data that they've already done, so they don't have to start from what this consumer don't have to start from square one. So this is going to be defaulted to whatever company is Art of Homeownership or Neo. You're going to have the loan type right now. It's just home loan and HELOCs. They're going to select if they've done this in their profile, it would already be selected what type of property they're looking for, but they can adjust or just select here the requested amount because this came from the profile and the readiness assessment run. Social security number would already be pre-filled if they had it in their profile, and then their annual income, and they can update this. So today we don't have it, but in coming late Q3, early Q4, we will have income and employment in here as well. So just like I said about how a consumer can go enroll their accounts, to be a similar type of process for enrolling their income and employment, which one will pull into areas like this or the calculator. And then when I get to show you where the share process, will generate an income and employment report as well. So they can add a co-borrower if they want. I'm not going to do it here, but I'll just explain the process. They fill in the information. The co-borrower would get an email to authorize and consent, and then they can move forward with the process. They verify it's the correct information, and this is going to go to this page where it's going to give them some just general information on what's typically required in the mortgage application process. It's going to pre-fill all of their personal information, and then this is where they go in and they'd select either all of their accounts, or they could, take off one of the accounts if they didn't want it. So whatever they select, when they share, we're D1C approved, VOA D1C approved. So we'll generate that D1C approved asset report, and that will be shared with you. Liabilities, again, they can select all. This one only has one, but they could select all or just target the ones that they want. I don't have any documents in this library, but as I was showing you the document library, if they had stuff in there, they could select anything in there that they wanted to share with you, and then that would pass over. They'd consent. I'm not going to do it here because it's a live and AOH instance, but that's just going to tell them, great, it went through. Someone will be in contact, and then you as a loan officer would get an email notification saying, this person has elected to share with you. It's going to give you a link to go to the admin portal, and then you're going to log in and retrieve that file in the share center area that I showed you before here. This is where that file would come up, and you see, you just get that information. So that was a really high level walkthrough. I did want to save time for questions and then dive into areas if it went too fast on one area.
I think right now Ethan answered everything that was in the chat. So if anyone else has other questions, feel free to throw them in the chat or the Q&A.
Or if you want to spend a little more time on any section, happy to do so. While we're waiting, one other feature a consumer can do, they can configure the dashboard any way that they want. So if they just click on this little widget here, and if they wanted to move moving services to the top, they could do that. And save layout, and it'll be up there.
Stephen is also asking what type of push notifications they receive as the loan officer.
So as a loan officer, today you don't really receive any. So you'll receive. We have a small defect right now that's going to be fixed here probably by the time you go live, where you get a notification when someone enrolled and registered in a locker. And then when they share, the consumer will get notifications along their journey, both about enrolling in credit and why that's important, and enrolling in accounts, and they'll get some automated journeys they're set off on. They'll also get updated push notifications, or not. It's not push. It's either in-app notifications, or if they want to get by email as well, they'll get things like when their credit score updated, or if there's a hard inquiry on their credit. They get that, or when the budgets I showed you, if they're on track for their budget, it'll say, good job. Or if they went over their budget, say, oops, you went over, let's try to do better next month.
Okay, that was it right now. I did want to tell everyone too, and I can just share screen here and kind of walk through it. Unless, Chris, did you want to dive into anything, unless someone else puts in the chat that they want you to go over something specific? Is there anything that you wanted to dive a little deeper into?
I think we covered it pretty well, and especially since we did, I think a lot of these folks were on a session last week, so I was redundant on a few of it, but I wanted to make sure anyone that couldn't make the last session at least got the good overview. So I got it there. We didn't have don't have mobile to show today, but it's all, again, all the same feature functionality minus that credit compass feature I showed you. And it's just optimized for mobile. It's a full mobile app, native mobile app in the App Store and the Google Play Store.
Cool. Sweet. Okay. I did also want to show, so I know we're getting a lot of questions around how to access the app, how everything works. And I do want to direct you to, I'm going to share my screen here and show you the portal if you have not accessed the portal yet. So if you are on the home page of the partner portal, first of all, if you haven't jumped in here yet, you really should, because there's so many resources. It's very well organized. Our team did a great job with it. If you come down here, there is something called the AOH and Neo Experience app course. So if you click here, you can see that number one, you can log in from this page to the app if it loads. So this is going to be the course to answer all of your questions. So the partner guide for the app resources. As you can see down here, we also have marketing materials created for you. So whether you're in the AOH instance or the Neo Experience instance, they're going to be branded for both. So definitely go in there, tell your whole social media audience about the app. But definitely jump in here and you can see, I think if you go to my course and learning plan, this is where the link is. I could be wrong. I am wrong. There is a link to actually log into the course. I think I'm just doing something wrong. So I'll have to send that out in the email. But along with that, our team is also putting a lot of great content in the Facebook group. So if you're not in the Facebook group, definitely join that. There's a lot of guidance around, I know Laura's been sharing some Tuesday tips in here as well. So I will send a link to that in the chat, but we do have a lot of resources being pushed out right now to teach you how to use the app, how to access it, a lot of great content. So make sure to jump on that. Okay, we have a few questions here. Alberto is asking, can you send a custom invite link for a realtor partner to use that ties the contact with that source?
Make sure I understand the question correctly. Are you talking about like where you could co-brand it? So you, Alberto, you and your realtor partner would be on a particular locker?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so I was asking in the event, like if one of my realtor partners wants to offer this service to their clientele, is there a way to give him a custom invite link that he can share? And that way it kind of creates some kind of labeling that these belong to that partner in itself?
Not today, but before the end of the year, that will be in place where you'd be able to, when I showed you how to create links earlier, you'd be able to create the link and then select a realtor partner to put in there. And then when the consumer logs in and you see, your contact, their contact would be in there as well.
I think what he's asking is like if we would just be able to tell who's signed up using that link. And that is something we can do for you, but it's not an available feature in the admin portal. You would just have to let someone on the Finlocker team know, and we can pull a report that would show you that information.
Got it. Thank you.
The other question in here, this is AOH specific. Will there be a training for the AOH members on best practices to roll this out to tie in with all other services, especially now that we have multiple home valuation tools? Yes, that's something that we can definitely prioritize here in the next few weeks. I think, more than anything, this is going to be really convenient for all of your clients. So more than anything, it's going to simplify and just drive them to the app because they can really access their art of homeownership tools through it too. So we will definitely prioritize that and just go over, especially the valuation portion of things, to make sure that that's clear. So wondering if we can see what communication is going out through Daily AI for the art of homeownership drips. The drips have changed when we went home binder. Yes. So Melissa, to answer your question, yes, that will, it's all in your Daily AI accounts. So you can see those different drip campaigns. The app campaign itself, it's going to be introducing them to, so they'll get that one-time code where they can actually access the app. But maybe that's also something that we can tie into one of these webinars where maybe we take half of it and just go through all of the client communication through the back end of Daily AI. but you should also be able to access that at any time just by logging into Daily AI. I can connect with you after that too, Melissa. Any other questions or any pieces of this that you would like Chris to dive deeper into? Any portions of it that he went over and you just want to see more details about? I did also figure out what I'm doing wrong, and I want to show everyone this because it is helpful. So if you're in the partner portal, what I was doing wrong is I was going from here. If you go to the hamburger menu on the left-hand side and app login, this is where it's all consolidated. So you can access both the course that I showed you before and then also the app login. So if you click here, it'll take you right to where you need to put your credentials in. So when in doubt, go to the portal. Any other questions? And as I said, I just want to drive it home one more time. You will be getting communication from our team on how to access your account. So if you don't have it already, don't panic. We're not forgetting about you. This is just a little bit of a manual process to get everyone enrolled, but we're making great progress on the AOH side. I think the Neo experience will be rolling out here. Everyone should get their codes by, I believe, the 24th is when we plan to have that done. Potentially before then, but we're going to say the 24th. So again, if you have questions or trouble accessing your app, Nikki will be available for the office hours starting next week. That will all be in the recap email this week. So just look out for that. It's going to be a great resource with everything that you need to know. Alberto, that's a great suggestion. We'll think about it. Laura also sent a sample of the drip campaign. So I believe Melissa was asking, and there's a link to that. Here's also a link to the Facebook group, which I mentioned. So make sure to join that, and we're putting all of the information that you need in there. But otherwise, if no one else has any questions, we can cut it short today. Chris, Ethan, thank you so much for joining. This was great. And like we said before, we're going to be covering another webinar with Finlocker on July 13th. Chris, do you have any idea, or maybe we can take some feedback from partners, but what's going to be, what we'll be going over in that next session?
Yeah, so we will go over the new admin portal. I gave a preview of today, the updated admin portal, and some of the additional consumer consented functionality where the loan officers will have better visibility into the consumer's activity. And then I think the feedback from the partners as they're getting online and using it, any questions that come up, that would be invaluable to just so we can focus in on what's most pressing. And then happy to give another overview, but I think with the feedback will be great. And just, we can dive into specific questions.
Great. Okay, so once you all have access to the app and you're using it, you want to give feedback, be sure to send it to our support team or reach out to someone on the AOH team, and then we can make sure to factor that into that next session when we have Finlocker with us again. So thank you all again. Really appreciate you jumping on. Thank you, Nathan, for the kind words. We're really excited about this. We know that you are all too. We got some great feedback so far. So we're excited that you guys are going to have it in your hands soon, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. But thank you guys for jumping on, and we will see you next week. Thanks, everyone.